Welcome to the series, World Harmony Can It Happen? I'm your host, Stuart Thomas, and we're going to look at on this show election integrity. You might say, well, why do we need to look at that topic? Well, stay tuned. You haven't heard anything yet, as the expression goes. We've entitled this show, Election Integrity, an Update with National Implications. And wait till you see what you see during this show. Our guests are, to my immediate left, Bill Risner, who's an attorney and has been working on this case for a number of years. Yep. To his left is John Brakey, who's an activist and also your co-founder of
AUDIT AZ, which stands for Americans United for Democracy, Integrity, and Transparency in Elections, Arizona.
And Jim, you're the other co-founder, right, of that?
Not a co-founder, but I joined the party in, not party in the political party.
I was going to say.
But I joined the ongoing rodeo in September of 2006.
Okay, and you are a member of the board of Black Box Voting?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Would you explain briefly what Black Box Voting is for those who may not know?
Black Box Voting is a nationally oriented nonprofit that studies voting system technology, electronic voting system problems. It was founded by Bev Harris, the lady who's now famous for discovering 40,000 files on a Diebold Open website in early 2003, which is how we know the most about just how bad America's voting systems are. The modern discussion on just how bad the voting systems are starts with Bev Harris's research.
Wow. Well, in terms of those files, since you mentioned them, what are some of the things that were discovered on those files?
Well, it was the crown jewels. We had internal memos written by Diebold to their own employees on, in some cases, how bad their security was. Wow. Actual running copies of the program that we could study, copies of data files from various counties, including one they stole from San Luis Obispo County, California. They actually stole a copy of the data from Election Day before the closing of the polls. So Diebold knew sooner than anyone how the vote was going to turn out. It was completely
wow. I used
insane.
To be an inspector at the polling place, and I remember putting the machine into a plug and getting the results into the central area.
But nobody.
But you say before even we did that, Diebold would know.
Well, but Diebold knew based on the mail-in vote that had already been tallied.
Oh, I see.
Okay, but that's very important. If you, and we're going to talk about that later here in Pima County, same thing's been happening. If you know what the state of the mail-in vote is a day or a week before the election, you know how the election is trending, and if that information goes to, for example, a county party chair, he can take his resources and pile them up on the races that are either that are close, and ignore the races that are winning big or losing big. Pull resources from there and put all your energy into the close races. That's election fraud. So stealing that data is a big issue, and we saw it in San Luis Obispo County, and we have seen it in spades here in Pima County. Long-term problem.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No?
It seems to me that in a democracy or a republic, it's foundational to get accurate readings of the public will.
Yeah.
And if the machinery is faulty, the reading of the public will can be different than it actually is. So in order to have a good democracy or even a republic, we need machines that, what I learned in my psychology class in college, are reliable and they have validity and reliability.
Stuart, you know, the problem is the machines are fine.
Oh, it's
the instructions to the machines. They're instructed to cheat, and they can cheat with them. But the machines do what they're told to do. They're just told to cheat.
Bill, you know, you have an interesting point, because Diebold seems to have questions in terms of election integrity. But I also have them at where I bank, and there's not a problem with them there.
Well, I think you put your finger on the situation with Diebold, because when it comes to money, they can do it where it's secure.
Oh, okay.
When it comes to voting, the software is actually created to facilitate cheating. Wow. The software is created, and they tell the election department, well, you can go in, and if there are problems, then you can make corrections so that all the warts are gone and it looks good. Well, those techniques that enable you to take the warts out and make it look good can enable you to make it come out the way that you want to. So they're actually built to cheat.
We had a program maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and Jim, you brought a video, and I wish we had it today.
Yeah.
But we do have another video, and it's clip 3. And that clip right there, if I could set it up, goes into the memory cards, which is a very important part of this case that we have today, and we're showing. And if we could play clip 3.
Well, let me just make the point about this, and then we'll go
Okay.
on with that point. A chimpanzee.
What we did is
Why don't you explain it
there
better
was
than I?
there was a Diebold request for proposal, an answer, I should say, to a request for proposal where they were threatening to sell some county a voting system. And in their official documents, Diebold says no human being can hack this vote. So Bev Harris looked at that as a challenge. She had a friend who was an animal trainer, and they taught an actual hairy chimpanzee to alter the audit trail on a Diebold system by pressing buttons that had little color-coded dots, and the chimp was paid in Mentos. The thing had a yes.
For those of you who don't know, Mentos is candy.
Yeah, it's a particular mint candy that the monkey was seriously into, and that's what they triggered him to do this with. But above and beyond that, you know, Bill was saying how they count money better than they count votes. Well, another part of the voting system infrastructure is the companies that test these voting machines. Well, the worst of the test labs, Wiley and Cyber, have been thrown out for poor performance and let back in only under conditions. And I hope they do their normal job better, because they're based in Huntsville, Alabama, so they can do military aerospace software testing at the Redstone National Arsenal. They test the software behind ICBMs.
Wow.
And I hope they do that better than they test voting systems, because they stink at that.
Wow. Bill, I felt you wanted to say something. Did I misread your body language?
Yeah, I probably always do. But, you know, on this testing, it's kind of interesting where the software companies for elections, they get to pick a company that they pay to do the testing. But they also tell them, don't test for security.
No.
So the company say, yeah, no one asked us to test for security, so that's not done.
My jaw dropped. I mean,
yeah, so when they test that the machine can count right, which is probably true, but all the security loopholes aren't tested for.
All right. Now, Jim, go ahead with what you were saying. I just wanted to finish that point before.
Well, since we're getting into the area of the machines, and a very, very important part, you know, people have always asked me, well, how does the memory card hack work? Because, you know, Pima County actually bought a crop scanner, and this machine only has one use, 2 uses now. One use is to measure the moisture content of corn, okay, in the fields, and the second thing is for hacking democracy. And this comes out, this clip we're getting ready to show is out of the HBO movie called Hacking Democracy. And it's Harry Hursty.
All of us were in, by the way.
Yeah. And
I got in because it was part of it was taken
that
from
was
my
fatally
show.
flopped.
We all got in because of the great work you're all doing in the
But in this clip right here, it actually shows how the memory cards are programmed and hacked and how easy it is to do, because we know that the operator for the county knew exactly how to do this. And Bill proved that through deposition and through court.
While we're setting that up, I'd just like to add something to that too. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that the software in these voting machines is copyrighted by the company that does it. And even though the government is either buying or renting the machines, they can't have access to the details of this software because it's copyrighted. Is that right?
That's correct.
Well, in Arizona, I took the deposition of our Secretary of State, and we don't even have a copy. Our law says that they're supposed to have what they call escrow a copy. They don't have it. They let somebody in Georgia keep it. And we have no one on our staff that has any idea what's in that software or would know anything about it for our Secretary of State's office. Wow. And what they said under oath was they just trust the vendors. They trust the companies.
Oh boy, we're gonna see a clip a little later about talking about trusting the people involved. John, did you want to lead into the?
I think it's okay to show it. Let's show clip 3.
Let's go with it.
There it is.
Just contain votes. there was a program or executable code.
Well, if someone would have told me that in this system there is a living thing, an executable, modifiable program stored in the same place as the very data which is the most secure in this system, I would say you have to be misunderstanding something, crazy, or lying.
John, you're in the middle. Could you make that a little neater?
Hari wrote a report for black box voting, warning that this program, lurking in the memory card, could be used to change the result of an election.
What happened after that was that Diebold basically dismissed and stonewalled the report.
Diebold sent letters to officials across America denying that there was any executable code on the memory cards. Hari had discovered that Diebold's memory cards effectively allowed negative votes.
Well, then, go dead. What we're going to do here is modify one card and then bring it to the election supervisor Iyer Sanchez's office. Plug it as the real card in any election to the real election system and run ballots through, and that's the same system which have been used in a number of previous elections. And we'll see that what is the power in the ballot box. This should be just an empty box containing the votes, but it has more capabilities than that. So it's a very simple process. You just add the card in, you run the rewrite program, tell where to find the scanner, and tell exactly what file you want to be put in, and off it goes.
Hari's hack is a variation on stuffing the ballot box before anyone has voted. But this is always suspicious because you end up with more votes than voters. So Hari used 5 negative votes for one candidate and then gave the other one 5 positive votes. So as people cast their ballots, the total number of votes always equals the total number of voters. But was Hari right? Black box voting went back to Tallahassee for the ultimate test.
Yeah.
Pretty shocking, huh?
That's the same electronic ballot boxes we use in Pima County.
And after this, black box voting sent a notice around to election departments to let them know that you could use a machine, as Harry did, to program the precinct scanners so that they would print false results. So
That's scary.
well, Pima County said, wow, that's great. Let's buy one. So less than 2 weeks later, they bought a machine. Our one guy who operates our computer testified under oath that he practiced, and sure enough, you could get it to print false results.
That's scary.
We have the purchase order where Pima County bought the thing.
I'm sorry, what's that?
We have the purchase order
Oh.
where Pima County bought the thing.
yeah.
We know what happened.
That is scary.
And the database indicates that there were things that went wrong, clearly. And you know, on this one statement, this statement I sent you, that has 10, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we list 10 items, but there's really a lot more than that. You know, starting election night, when election day, when I started noticing that machines were failing in the field because of misprogramming on these electronic ballot box memory cards. And then they declared it was only, you know, 25 machines, when actually it was 70-some machines that failed. It could have been high as 160, and this is all because of the memory card. And then the database indicates that after the election, 80-some memory cards were loaded at least 2 times, if not up to 6 times. They didn't back up the election until Friday after the election, because they were still tweaking the memory cards. There's so much things that have gone wrong on this particular election. And I don't mean to pick just on the RTA, but you know, we're not very rich people, and you know, we got a great lawyer, but he has limited resources, and we haven't been giving him a lot of money that he needs to support.
For those who don't know, RTA is Regional Transportation
Yeah.
Authority.
This is the May 2006 bond, $2 billion bond measure That's the
With a B, $2 billion.
$2 billion bond measure, and it's the single most rotten-looking election that ever took place in Pima County.
Well, there's other elections that we would, if we had the resources, that we'd look into. One is the Ted Downing election of '06. There's an Oro Valley election that stinks to high heaven, and there's another election that just happened after this, which was just in the senatorial race. There was $29 million spent, and it looks like every memory card was loaded twice within minutes of each other. And this is the perfect system for a man in the middle. You know, with the hack that we're looking at on the RTA is the local guys' hacks. But this whole system was built to cheat, not by Pima County. They just learned how to utilize it better from what they learned back in 1998 when they had punch cards and they were trying to merge the punch card data with the, you know, the
new optical scanner.
new optical scanner data. And they were
remember
taught the
the
back
punch
door of
cards.
the system how to do this, which is Microsoft Access. And that's what we found election night on the RTA. Ted Downing did right next to the computer. Brian Crane was reading the Microsoft Access manual. And Jimmy, why wouldn't you not have a Microsoft Access manual? You explain.
Microsoft Access is a burglary tool for elections. If you are using a Diebold-based election, okay, if you're using the Diebold software to look at the votes, it looks like there's security. If you use Microsoft Access to look at the same central database, all the security vanishes. Microsoft Access can go in and modify all the vote totals for the entire county without requiring a password, without leaving an audit trail record, without doing any of the standard checks and balances. So when you see Microsoft Access around being used in an election, it's not legal, it's not proper, because Access is not a certified voting system product. It's not proper, and it's a strong evidence of fraud right there. That's combined with everything else we know went on with the RTA election.
A burglary tool.
Yeah.
2 words. That's what it is.
John, I saw a video a while back where, despite all the 3 of your great efforts, you had some difficulty with Brad Nelson, the head of the elections in Pima County. And I bring it up, actually, to honor you for standing up for what you believe in. And it wasn't easy for you to do that because you were dealing with the elections director of the county, and he wasn't on your side.
Absolutely not.
And yet, basically, the 3 of you are giving your time and your efforts and doing a service to humankind by doing this. It's a shame that you don't have other people. Well, maybe you do have other people helping you. I hope you
Oh,
do.
we have a few others.
Okay, because you all deserve credit for your courage to fight the powers that be, but you're in the right.
Yeah.
And it's good. I mean, I'm so glad that you all are doing that. I hope everybody. I know some people don't appreciate it because they're not making it easy for them, but you're doing it for right and for the will of the people. Yes.
Okay. I want to try and take you now to where our legal situation is right now, and of course Bill's going to talk more on that.
Yeah.
But we've spent years from basically 2006 almost to through 2009 doing public records lawsuits, and we were successful 3 out of 3 times. We've got a bunch of information about how Pima County conducts elections. Well, we're going to show you a brief video clip from one of those previous trials where the county's own lawyers talk about why we should not be given that data because their system was insecure.
Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
so let's play that clip.
But why don't you let Bill set it up a little better?
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
I think it's
Yeah.
important why we wanted to play this clip because of the accusation. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, really, the fundamental stuff that we're dealing with, it's simple, is it's real easy to cheat with the system. The next thing is there's nothing you can do about it, because to contest any election under Arizona law, you have to file a lawsuit within 5 days.
Wow.
And you have to specifically allege details of how the election could have been different. Well, you can't uncover that. There are so many ways to cheat. You can't uncover it. You can't go in within 5 days. You know, earlier you asked about how much time had gone by in the lawsuit. That's because we were in front of a judge, Judge Harrington first, in Pima County, and the issue was assuming that they cheated and assuming that was a fraudulent election. He says, you can't come to court. I have no jurisdiction to even hear it. We had to go to the Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, and they said, no, you can hear it. And so what we're in court now for is to say, yep, it's easy to cheat. We have evidence that they have cheated, and we want you, Judge, to order certain changes that will keep them from cheating. So our whole fight is about the right to cheat. The county says, we like having employees that'll participate in cheating that we've identified. They say, we like a system where it's easy to cheat, and we want to keep doing it.
Yeah, but they don't overtly say that.
No.
It's implied.
Well, no,
they overtly say it?
Yeah, they overtly, we're going to be in court Monday, next Monday.
Excuse me, for those who are watching this as replays, the date of this live show is the 2nd of March. It's going to play a number of Saturdays following this, so I would just want to say, what's the
5th
date?
of March.
The 5th of March.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the county's argument is, look, they're claiming that even that assuming that they cheated, that we didn't specifically allege, even though we allege that they cheated in a $2 billion election, that we had a good faith belief they would do it again. It's absurd.
Either way, whether you believed it or not, if they cheated, it ought to be hopefully resolved, and not only for that time, but for the future.
That's right.
Yes.
This clip that we are getting ready to show is from the first trial, which got us the databases. This is Judge Miller, and this is Christopher Strad, who's making statements about how bad the database. And Bill, why don't you just...
The county's own lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the county in that case, they started the case by saying there's no security problems. Then they realized that weren't going to work. They go, yeah, the security problems are really bad, but we can't let these people have the data of what happened in past elections. And they spent like $1 million keeping data from us when there's no security problem at all. And that's when we learned that they're hiding something big.
And he admitted it on the tape that there are problems. Okay, let's
Clip one, yeah.
Here's where we have much agreement, surprisingly. And this, in some sense, may make the trial either shorter, or at least when you go to unravel everything that we said, you'll have some real easy basis upon which to draw some conclusions. There is no question that there are significant flaws with the GEMS software from a security standpoint, not from an accuracy standpoint, but a security standpoint. Second, the databases themselves are not secure. We know that. And we agree that they can be altered using Microsoft Access. We know that these databases are essential for programming the memory cards of the machines. Why anybody would want to have this kind of insecure software out in the public domain, however, is something that is beyond us. We don't understand. I mean, certainly we understand a need for transparency, but surely there must be a balance for security as well. And the problem here that we have, and I don't think there's any disagreement about this among the experts in some sense, is that, gee, if this software is really that vulnerable, we should get a new system. Well, that might be good in a perfect world, but Judge, neither you, nor me, nor Mr. Risner, nor anybody in this courtroom right here is going to be able to affect that change. That change is to...
So that was the public records case, and now we're trying a lawsuit that actually can change the process, and they're fighting tooth and nail.
But you got him on tape.
Tell me about it.
Bill, you want to say something?
Don't worry about it. The county says those remarks were out of context. Look, I mean, Stuart, I'm telling you, what this case is about is the county's continued right to cheat. We want to stop that, and they like it. That's it. And they're using our money to defend their right to cheat.
Wait, you mean taxpayer money?
Taxpayer money. Yeah.
Stuart, we're going to show you one more little clip here, and that's from the concluding segment of another episode of this rodeo, which was the time that Attorney General Terry Goddard came in, grabbed the ballots, alleged to have counted them for this contested RTA election, and well, he did a bad job, and you're going to hear details on that. But in other words, the Attorney General came in and said everything was okay and we should all go home and forget about all this. Well, it's number 2 in the sequence.
Yeah.
Right? Clip 2.
But I think that let's just give some more
yet.
contents to this clip. Is
Well, here,
Go
let
ahead.
me tell you. The original ballots were printed on an offset press by a company in Phoenix.
Right.
Pima County has a machine where it's called ballot on demand. They can print ballots anytime they want from that election. No problem. I mean, the software is a ballot definitional file, so they can print them. So we figured, okay, what Pima County's done is they'll stuff the ballot boxes with ballots that they print, so when they count them, it'll look like they won. But it's real simple because Pima County's printer uses a high-speed laser printer where there's little spray. So I wrote the Attorney General and said, look, all we want you to do is randomly check the paper to see if it was offset printed or laser printed. I wrote them twice. Jim March took photos and said, this is what it looks like with laser, this is what offset. Wrote them, here are the photos, here's what you should look for. They wouldn't do it. I talked to the Pima County Democratic Party Executive Committee and I said, look, Goddard doesn't like me and won't answer my mail.
I wonder why. He doesn't like you.
So the Pima County Democratic Party, the Executive Committee, passed a resolution. Attorney General Goddard, on behalf of the Democratic Party, would you please look and check?
I seem to remember that in the news.
He said, absolutely, he refused to do it. And then you'll see on tape where he says he refused to do it because of the cost involved. But all week while they were counting ballots, there's a big glass window. Jim March is sitting on the other side, and John with a microscope. All they have to do is look at paper. It doesn't harm it. Look, look. It's free, it hurts nothing, and it resolves the issue. He wouldn't do it. And that's one of the reasons that convinced us that they did cheat, is because the Attorney General was afraid to know. He didn't want to know the answer because all he had to do was look, but if he didn't look, he could say the count turned out fine.
You know what it reminds me of? I hate to say it. It reminds me of the election where George Bush won the first time. When I say won, that's with quotes around it. When the Supreme Court stopped the recount vote in Florida.
Yeah.
They could have let it finish before they made a decision, but they stopped it short of finishing. What's going on? I mean, we're raised in school. We have a democracy or republic, whatever you want to call us. We're told how wonderful a system we have here. And I've heard it is wonderful compared to a lot of the world, but I guess we have our flaws too, don't we?
I think we have a lot more election theater going on than we should have, meaning that we really don't know how the elections really turn out in Pima County or even in Arizona, because what we're finding in Pima County is not the exception. It looks like it's more the rule.
Well, that's the national implication.
Yes.
If it can be done here, it can be done anywhere.
We know it's done in Maricopa, and that's with the Sequoia system.
And that's what, the 6th largest city in the United States?
Fourth
the Phoenix.
largest. Fourth largest
That got
county.
demoted. Oh,
Sixth.
county,
County,
okay.
fourth
Because
largest
I know
county.
for a while it was 5th.
We're going
and
to play
then-
clip 2 to keep on the subject matter.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, but it was the 5th largest, and then it got demoted, so Philadelphia got the...
Sorry, one more question then. Was any attempt made to ensure the authenticity of the paper ballots you had in your possession? In other words, did you check to make sure that they were printed on an original Runbeck offset printer as opposed to a more modern laser printer, which both Pima and Maricopa counties have in their possession? Did you do any spot checks of either that technology or the age analysis of ink to make sure they were in the right ballpark age? Did you do any forensic checks of the ballots to make sure they were real period 2006 ballots?
No. No. Our criminal investigation can only focus on those items for which we believe we have reasonable suspicion. And the substitution of thousands of ballots was not an item that had been raised that we felt came to that level. I've not seen any credible evidence that anybody is out to testify that there might have been a substitution of ballots. So that, you can't go through a forensic analysis for something for which you have no reasonable suspicion that it might have happened.
On the John C. Scott Talk Show, JT, thanks for your call. You're with the Attorney General of the state of Arizona, Terry Goddard. Go ahead.
Are you aware of the problems with custody of the hard drives that were in the Pima County vault?
The hard drives in the vault?
Yeah, in other words, the hard drives containing the RTA database numbers were in a vault until litigation was completed. And with a court order, both the plaintiffs, that was the Democratic Party, and Pima County were supposed to arrive and pick this data up, right?
Yeah, and then it was missing.
And it was missing.
Well, I mean, that's part of what I'm talking about. I was aware that had happened. I was also aware that the Secretary of State is...
Well, welcome back. Before we continue our discussion, I would like to tell you, the audience, that if you would like to reach us at World Harmony Can It Happen, we'll put something up on the screen in a few moments. Oh, there it is. You can call us at area code 520 if you're outside of the city of Tucson, 722-2837. That's 722-2837. Or you can also reach us at forwardtofulfillment@yahoo.com. Is there any way you would like to give something in case people would like to get more involved with you all?
Well, there's the rigged, there we go, riggednomore.com website is where we've set up basically the latest hard data about the current aspects of the fight. That's the most up-to-date look at what's going on, and we're going to keep it up-to-date all the way through trial. Hopefully a jury trial.
I can't see that real well from here. It's rigged, R-I-G-G-E-D?
Yes.
Correct. No more. All one word, .com.
All in small letters?
Yep. It doesn't really matter, but...
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me add a couple of things. What you saw in that last clip was myself questioning Attorney General Goddard.
Right. Then Attorney General Goddard.
Well, yeah, then Attorney General Goddard. Now, unfortunately, we've replaced him with somebody who's... Never mind. I won't go there. One of the things, when they were boxing up the ballots as they were finishing up, we noticed something. The boxes were all exactly the same size for all the ballots. It was a foot-tall cardboard box, no big deal. As they were piling up the ballots, we saw them count them by stacks of 100. So 100, 100, 100, 100.
So that makes sense.
So we could count, okay, 1,000 ballots are going cleanly and evenly into that box for the precinct votes. But over for the mail-in votes, a different size stack is occurring.
Up to 1,600, 1,700 ballots.
Yeah, there was a difference. It was an average difference of about 150
what does
per
that
box.
mean?
Well, we asked Runbeck Printing Services whether they used different paper stock for the precinct voting and the mail-in voting. No, they did not. So there shouldn't be a difference in height.
We have that as an audio clip. We didn't bring it today, but an audio clip that I recorded when I called Runbeck and I asked them that question. They said, no, there's only one size paper.
Right. Which suggests...
Runbeck's the printer.
Yes.
Yeah. Which suggests that there was mass substitution of one or the other. We can't tell you right now which one. Yeah. We have no idea. But we've been paying, since 2009, I believe it is, we've been paying $450 a quarter.
Every 3 months, yeah.
Every 3 months, to keep those ballots off of death row, out of the shredder, to keep them in storage at a company called Iron Mountain. Now, they're not the problem children, but Iron Mountain, it costs money to store the ballots there. We've been paying those fees while this case was on appeal and now on through trial. Because we think the truth is probably in those original paper ballots still, even though Attorney General Terry Goddard looked at them.
Former Attorney General.
Yeah.
For those who are
correct.
Not familiar with our political system
correct.
Here. Wow. Do you all think we ought to go back to hand counting ballots?
Boy.
Sure.
Well, you know, Arizona uses paper ballots, but it's against the law to count paper ballots.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's real crazy.
It doesn't make sense.
Our law is that you have to rely on whatever the machine tells you. And
it's copyrighted. You can't get into what they do. The government can't get into what they do.
There was an election contest in 2004 primary in Phoenix, District 20 Republican primary. One guy, the first vote count says he lost by 4 votes. So Arizona has the narrowest recount law in the country. And incidentally, you can't in an election, even if you pay for it, get a recount in Arizona. It has to be, we have only automatic recounts, and only automatic recounts if it's 0.1%. So this one was close enough. They recounted them, and there were only 20,000 ballots, so they figured, in America, let's hand count.
Yeah.
Secretary of State, Jan Brewer, then Secretary of State, sent a memo over saying, you're not allowed to hand count. You can't do it. If the county wants to and the candidates, you can't. It's illegal. So they run them through a machine.
My jaw just dropped again, in case you didn't notice.
So they ran them through the machine again. They said, the machine says the other guy wins by 13 votes. But then they look at the numbers and said, wait, when the machines counted the same ballots the second time, it counted 486 votes that weren't counted the first time. So then the county election director testified, and what about that? There's one machine with an 18.3% error rate.
Wow.
So the election director in Maricopa County says, that's within the expected range of
18
error.
plus %?
Yeah. So
that's not acceptable.
Yeah, but the takeaway lesson from all that is no one ever could see those ballots. No one. The legislature subpoenaed the ballots. The Arizona legislature committee subpoenaed the ballots.
Okay, good.
Not good. The FBI immediately grabbed the ballots so that they couldn't see them. Right. And then when the heat was off, gave them back and they destroyed the ballots.
Right.
No one ever saw them, and it's the law, you can't count paper. That's it.
When you're talking all about this, I'm thinking it's not a fair way to do things, so there must be people benefiting from that not fair way.
Yeah, the ones that get to decide who wins.
Yeah.
And it's not the voters unless they're fairly counted.
Yeah.
Let's take as one example the RTA race. Now, what was the RTA bond measure, Regional Transportation Authority, what was that really about? Well, it was about increasing the size of the roads around the periphery of the Tucson area to help with the housing boom. This was all $2 billion that was supposed to be spent to keep what we now know as the housing bubble expanding and booming. Okay, so that was $2 billion that was being spent for the benefit of bankers and Wall Street and the mortgage industry and a whole bunch of other now known to be corrupt figures.
Growth lobby.
Yeah, the local construction companies. That's what the bond measure was all about. It was all part of the housing bubble. It was about the same things that Occupy Wall Street are complaining about. It's all tied together.
By the way, I saw there's now an adjunct aspect to Occupy Tucson. I forget what it's called. I saw it on the internet last night. It's Occupy Tucson something, because they got moved out of the park by the police the other night. Anyway, so there are now 2 groups. One's a subgroup, I think.
Well, nice thing about our problem here is every person who believes in democracy, believes in the resolution of issues through honest voting, should
what
be
a
on
great
our
concept.
side.
Well, yeah.
But one of the things that's interesting is you have not read anything in years about this lawsuit.
I haven't heard anything.
In the Arizona Daily Star. They won't print anything about it.
No
evidence, no allegations, nothing.
John called me in January and mentioned what's going on. I said, I thought there was a dead issue. It's not dead at all, because I haven't heard or anything about it.
Yeah, you won't see it on TV. You just won't hear it because they the economic rulers of Tucson have decided that they're going to let the judges take care of this, and they're not going to report anything about it.
But John and Jim, I think, are going to put this on YouTube, this show, aren't you?
Well, it's going to go on the Intercept, which is J.T. Waldron's site.
Okay.
And we'll take the video and put that up there, and it will be on the same site that we just mentioned too, which is Rigged No More.
Now, you mentioned the judges. Now, basically, we're brought up to respect judges. So I'm going to take on the other side. Why is that a bad thing that we have judges decide this?
No, it's not a bad thing if judges will decide it.
I see.
The problem is that judges view all of this sort of thing as a hot potato to look at how quickly can they hand it off to someone else.
Oh.
So when we were first in front of a judge, where the issue was assuming that they had rigged, assuming it was a fraudulent election, could we show it to prevent it from happening again? The judge says no. And the county argued that the court had no jurisdiction. The county says you can't do it, ever. That was the county's argument, and the judge agreed.
Well, wait a minute.
So,
Their argument you didn't have to agree with, though. But why did he agree, do you know?
They're on the same
He did.
side.
And the, no, I don't.
Okay.
You know what they say, but I don't. And then the Court of Appeals says no, you can hear it. So now the county's back in again for a second run to see if they can convince another judge that he shouldn't hear it. That's the, you know.
So it looks like the three of you, and perhaps others that I don't know about, are fighting a tough fight because you got, first of all, it's got a cost to get all this stuff before a court. And even I don't know how you're being paid or not paid, maybe pro bono, but the fact of the matter is it's taking up a lot of your time, obviously, doing this. And you guys are probably not getting paid, or if you're getting paid, it's probably
Living on peanuts.
not what you're worth.
Exactly.
And so you're fighting for the rest of us, essentially, in our behalf, and God bless you for doing it.
Thank you.
John's been cleaning pools for people. I've been fixing people's computers all over town for some side money. I mean, it's, yeah.
You've been in the hospital lately.
Oh,
I
very
understand.
briefly. I'm all right. No
Oh,
big
good.
deal.
I'm glad you're better.
No.
And I had a heart attack over a year ago, and I'm doing
Wow.
very well. Lost a lot of weight, and
You lost, I think you said 60 pounds, didn't you?
close to 70 pounds.
Wow, good
close
for
to
you.
70 pounds. A real whole change of lifestyle. I just had to.
You gave up smoking,
Toughest thing I've did in my life.
but you've succeeded.
Yes, to this point, yes.
Cold
Every day.
turkey, too.
Every
How
day.
long has it been you've been smoke-free?
I've been smoke-free since October, the first week of October when I had my heart attack.
Of
the year-
2011.
10.
Oh, 10.
10.
So it's been over a year,
Yeah.
well over a year.
Well over a year.
I smoked once. I was helping a friend rewire an old building, and I accidentally hit the 220, and I smoked.
Oh,
a little.
my.
Sorry.
But you're okay, fortunately. Thank goodness.
You know what the problem, Stuart,
Yeah, what's that?
for me and
Yeah.
John and maybe Jim, is when you grow up in this country and you know you like democracy, you understand the
Yeah.
benefits, you understand what we have,
Yeah.
and then when you know how bad it is, then it's hard to walk away. It's hard to leave it, because the problem we end up is knowing too much.
Yeah.
You know, like John started out as a watcher at the polls, saw stuff going on.
And I saw a video of that, I think, on the news, and that's where you and Brad Nelson got into
Yes,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, he educated himself, and then what do you do? Jim is incredible knowledge in computer stuff, but he's learned how this stuff works, and he has a skill that's on demand nationwide. He was in Tennessee and Florida, California, different places, relying on his skills. And I would like to walk at the beach. I'd like to do something. I'd like to do something other than this case. Believe me.
Yeah.
But the problem, it's a problem when you know there's an answer, you know what the problem is. You not only learn about the extent of the corruption, but that stench just hits you in the face, and then you don't feel like you can walk away and be the same person.
I have a thought when you're talking. Maybe you all could write a book. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because once you had a book and it got some publicity about the book, it can help circulate what you all are doing, and it may just catch on nationally.
You would hope so. We film everything because people just don't believe it unless they saw it on TV or you have it on film. And we've probably got hundreds of hours of film with the court cases, court hearings. I'll film the hearing this coming Monday, and the data that we've accumulated, I can summarize this way, as a friend once said, and it was in the movie Hacking Democracy, is that it looks like that we live in a country that makes believe that it's another country, that we make believe that our democracy works. And
Well, it should, ideally.
Ideally, it really should, but not with the system when there's decision makers out there who have the power saying, I don't want Ted Downing to win. I want to make sure that that the election for Senator Strangelove, John Kyle, goes this way. Okay, not just one election, but it's interesting when you wind up in Maricopa and Jimmy says, oh my God, look at this, and he shows me a wire on a computer, and we follow all the way around, and it's hooked into a guy's laptop, and that guy has a decoder on his computer, and then we find out in court, and it's on election day now, okay, that he also programs one other county in this country, Cook County, Chicago.
Wow.
Okay,
wow.
And they're doing it illegally.
I'm not a fan of Kyle's, but I want to say this disclaimer: not all the things are said are necessarily the views of everybody on World Harmony. Can it happen? You're pretty tough on him, and I don't.
Well, the only reason I would say is this:
example
is an example, yes. But I'd say this is that, when you go back into election fraud, nothing's fixed. We know why it broke, and we go way back in time. And you start studying other archives of Ernie Hancock with Freedom Phoenix, and then you find out about this guy named Nathan Sproul, and he worked for John Kyle, and then you find out in the 2004 election, what I found was a hack and a stack and a trick and a switch, and I'm not going to try to explain that. But it's just incredible.
That sounds like jive talk. But
it does, but it is an article that I wrote some time back, and is that elections have been manipulated for a long time in this state. And that we have a system that is not a very good system for honest elections in this town. They can steal anything they want in this state, in fact. And we've traveled the whole state and looked from county to county. And like I said, nothing is fixed till we know why it broke. We're here working for solutions. We're not challenging the RTA election.
Well,
we're not going after the kind of stuff. We're after trying to protect the purity of future elections for my grandchildren, for yours, and Bill when he has some someday, and and for others. It's just that important.
Can you get the Attorney General of the United States involved in this?
No.
We've tried. Yeah.
They won't go with it?
No.
Yeah. This is a taboo subject.
No.
The Attorney General is supposed to be guarding our our rights.
Look, how many states in the country have they been passing laws recently to suppress the vote, to make it so that everybody has to bring in photo cards and stuff like that, because they figured out a certain number of people won't vote, and yet it's Republicans that have done that to suppress groups that they think are more likely to vote Democratic, and yet our National Attorney General has only taken very small actions, and only against certain of those states. So really, it's how many people on Wall Street have been prosecuted by the National Attorney General? I don't know, but it's a fact that he has tremendous abilities to get after these problems, and they haven't done it. So.
And when you look at the national language, all you hear about is voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud, right? Well, I got good news. The voters are just doing fine. This is Orwellian language that they're using on us. It's election fraud. Okay? And election fraud, election officials, the vendors, insiders, things like that. Like I said, the voters, they're just doing fine. But they always get the blame, don't they? Because when they do discover something, they call it voter fraud.
By the way, I worked elections for years. I was the judge of the opposite party. I was a marshal. I started as a marshal, became the judge of the opposite party of the inspector, and eventually I became inspector, and I ran the thing. It was years ago. I'm 70 now, so I stopped a few years ago. But at that time, the poll workers were good too.
Yeah.
But the machinery is the machinery.
That's it. We have, the political parties together have about 3,000 people that work the polls. There's not a problem with that system.
Right, I agree.
The problem's with the machinery, and the problem is when you and good people like you were in the polls and you did everything right and you push the button and it prints out a result. If it's programmed to print a false result, it's a false result, and you were just part of the show. That's these guys love restrictions that don't matter. If there's stuff that makes it look like they're really into security, they love it.
You know, I reminded of one of the times I was a marshal before I became an inspector. And I was working at Our Savior's Lutheran Church, where we had a polling place. And the marshal not only announces the polls are open, but the polls are closed. So I wanted to be fair to anybody who I could see coming to, hurry up before I make the announcement, because once you make the announcement, it's closed. So I look around, there's nobody coming. And I make the announcement, the polls are officially closed. As soon as I said that, somebody came out from around the corner. I couldn't let the person vote, but I felt bad, because if I'd seen the person, I said, hurry up before I make the announcement. And of course, the person wasn't happy, but I mean, we're just trying to do our jobs and do as well as we can, and I could not let the person vote, which was sad for me. I really wanted to let the person vote.
You should say the polls are closed. Good thing you got here in time.
Oh. well, I once I made the announcement and it stopped my voice. Then he showed up, so I couldn't let him vote. But anyway, John, you wanted to say something?
No.
Oh, Jim, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say, look, I've seen a lot of different election lawsuits, and the majority of them either have not been set up correctly to actually change the election process, or they weren't filed that way in the beginning. They were either an individual candidate's challenge on specific facts regarding a specific election. We've had very few legal attempts to actually change the entire process by which we vote and try and institute reforms. Well, that is what we're doing here. That's what this case is doing, and we led it by public records digging and public records lawsuits, so we know exactly where to dig. The bad guys are scared of this lawsuit.
Yeah, I can understand.
They are not happy with us. Okay?
What is your answer to this? If you could have the final answer being resolved, what would it be?
Let me take a stab.
Well,
at that
we have less than 5 minutes. That's
I
why I
know
want
that.
to get to
I'll be real quick. There's an entire legal structure that has forced bad voting machines down our throats. Okay? Fortunately, here in Arizona, they still do involve paper ballots. Trying to change all that legal structure and then trying to change millions of dollars worth of voting machines would be very, very difficult. We think we have the beginnings of an answer, which is take the black box bad voting systems and add to it a white box, a standard little computer with a scanner and a CD burner, DVD burner, that takes the ballots after the bad machines have processed it. You scan them again, but this time all you do is take pictures of them and distribute those pictures on DVD to whoever wants them, candidates, political parties, whatever. And any election that looks wonky, we'll hand count it based on those scans.
What term did you use, wonky?
Wonky.
What does that mean? I'm not familiar.
Messed up.
Okay.
I could use four-letter language, but I think
no,
the FCC does apply here. No, but if an election looks visibly bad, it smells as bad as the RTA election did, we can do our own hand count based on those scans. So what this would effectively do is add a cheap white box checker of a system on top of the existing legally mandated gear. And we think that's the cheapest way out and through this mess. And there have been some experiments along these lines already, Humboldt County, California, but no county the size of ours has gone there yet. And we think that that can serve as a national model, as a way forward. Otherwise, we have to reform a whole bunch of law from the feds on down. The so-called Help America Vote Act of 2002, we call it the Hack America Vote Act. That was a knee-jerk response to Florida 2000, and it was a very bad response, and it mandated a bunch of garbage voting machines being tested in a completely garbage vote testing bureaucracy and infrastructure that has failed on so many levels. We've had, of only 4 test labs we've ever had testing this voting system software, 3 of them have been thrown out for poor performance. The 4th one is a video game tester that tried to do the best job, but then they quit in disgust in late 2010.
Well, the next thing up is what on Monday?
It's the county has filed a motion to dismiss the case, saying that even though we've alleged that they committed a massive fraud, have a lousy system, and can do it again repeatedly, that we didn't allege that we had a good faith belief that they would cheat again.
Why won't the papers cover it?
Because the growth lobby likes the ability. It's just, I can't answer, but
Okay.
but look, our local paper is 1 inch from bankruptcy. They're owned by an Iowa outfit, and they take all the money they can out of the county. Advertisers have phenomenal control because the whole object is to make money and send it back to pay the debt. These are the guys that bought the Pulitzer papers.
And then on top of that.
And so the advertisers that are the growth lobby, the home builders, the car dealers, those folks have tremendous amount of pressure on the local newspaper. I presume that that's their reason.
We're out of time, but John, maybe you could say something over the music as we go out.
Well, just please be with us if you can, and in court, support our operation. Please go to rignomore.com.
And remember,
Donations would be welcome.
This show is on the 2nd of March, so if you're seeing it a later date than that, the court the date will already pass.
We'll need
Thank you.
donations. Thank you.